Episode 355. As soon as Ye Shu finished speaking, Lord Grimm charged forward. Sword Point instinctively swung his blade to parry. But Ye Shu's words had already stunned him, leaving 80% of his mind completely off the fight. He was no match to begin with, and now his focus was shattered this badly. When Sword Point fell, he barely knew what had happened. He immediately chose to respawn and sent a message to his team, demanding everyone report their positions.
The spiral web formation was created by Ye Qiu.
Jianfeng Jisuo truly had no idea about its origins. He'd stumbled upon this tactical playstyle online by chance. Intrigued, he'd dug up a ton of material to study it. That was years ago now. No wonder he'd mastered it to such a degree. He'd read a lot of material back then, but Sword Point couldn't quite remember who the authors were now. Ye Qiu might have been among them. But that's not surprising. For a top player who's been in the game since Glory's launch, who knows how many guides he's contributed over the past decade. The spiral web formation was Ye Qiu's invention. Sword Point truly couldn't recall ever seeing it in any guide. Jianfeng Jisuo didn't have time to think about it any further. As soon as he received the new coordinates from the team, he immediately moved his mouse over to the electronic map outside the game window. The dedicated electronic map for Glory was incredibly detailed, displaying coordinates with just a hover of the mouse. The sword's tip highlighted each person's position, and in moments, the formation was clearly laid out on the map. The positions of him and Ye Qiu's Lord Grimm were still firmly controlled within the formation. The layout itself remained flawless. Could it be that they were just putting on a show? As he thought this, Sword Point continued issuing orders, pulling his team members even further away in that direction. Not long after, a team member sent a message, updating Lord Grimm's new position. He moved the mouse to the electronic map, following the direction of the sword's point, and saw it clearly. His teammates' positions were now all marked on his map, as clear as a bird's-eye view from the sky. Jianfeng Jisuo found this style of command to be incredibly fluid. He simply stopped controlling his character, focusing instead on sending and receiving messages, directing his teammates' movements. The electronic map was a powerful tool. Under Sword Point's focused control, it felt like he was playing a real-time strategy game.
Let's see how you break this formation, Ye Qiu.
The successive messages all placed Lord Grimm squarely within the formation. The initial shock and unease that had gripped him at the sight of the sword's point slowly subsided. The corner of his mouth quirked up once more, revealing that same old contemptuous sneer.
Careful, head east for 2 intersections, and watch your right shoulder. Mina, head left to Sandy Lane. Fall back to the intersection behind you.
With a flick of his sword, he directed the flow of battle with effortless grace, toying with his opponent as if they were a puppet on strings, and this opponent was none other than a top-tier god of glory. The satisfaction was truly unparalleled. Sword Point grew more and more exhilarated as he played. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed, and all traces of his earlier shock and doubt had vanished completely. A message flashed. He clicked it open and saw Lord Grimm's new coordinates had been sent. Without a moment's delay, he scanned the digital map and immediately issued a rapid-fire string of commands, directing the appropriate personnel to move toward the designated area. But the moment he updated his character's position, he suddenly noticed a massive gap had opened up in his spiral web formation.
How could this happen?
Sword Point's emotions were on a roller coaster, first frantic, then smug, then terrified, then frantic again. He hastily ordered his team to plug the gap, but a new message came almost immediately. Lord Grimm's updated coordinates were in, and he was heading straight for that very opening. Sword Point's gaze snapped to the new coordinates, his tension spiking. The moment they were displayed, a quick comparison with the previous location confirmed it. Lord Grimm was moving straight for the gap in their formation. Judging by the timing, Lord Grimm had changed his direction early and decisively. It was as if he'd known this gap would be here all along. The frantic reports of where the sword was pointing sent nearby players scrambling to plug the gap. A quick check of the distance, a mental calculation of the time they could still make it. But this sudden frantic reshuffling left other areas exposed and unguarded. Following Lord Grimm's movement, the tip of the sword now pointed to where players from the areas he'd left behind should be called in to fill the gaps. This was how the spiral web formation operated. But just as he finished sending all the messages and let out a small sigh of relief, Lord Grimm's new coordinates arrived. When he opened the message and saw where the sword was pointing, his head nearly exploded. Lord Grimm had changed direction again. All the frantic orders he'd just issued had instantly become meaningless. Lord Grimm's new heading was aimed directly at a gap in their formation. Jianfeng Suoji had no time for anything else. He rushed to send another message, but this time, plugging the gap required mobilizing even more players, which meant he had to send even more messages. Jianfeng Jisuo was pushing his APM to the absolute limit, not for in-game maneuvers, but for frantic typing. His character stood frozen in Sky City. There was no time to move even a single step. Meanwhile, in Sin City, Lord Grimm charged forward, running in a dead straight line. No one understood the workings of the spiral web formation better than Ye Shu. He had no idea who was coordinating things on the dynasty side, but after over an hour of seemingly aimless wandering, which Chen Guo took as him searching for the Christmas thieves, Ye Shu had actually been observing his opponents the whole time. After over an hour of observation, Ye Shu had a solid count of their numbers. Then, by tracking the positions of each character he spotted, he gradually pieced together the formation of their spiral web array. Ye Shu now had a crystal-clear picture of how the 24 dynasty players were positioned around him. From there, Ye Shu could predict their basic counter-moves for every step he took in any direction. But he still needed to confirm. After all, different formation masters would have their own unique methods and habits for directing the array, which might not align with his predictions. Ye Shu was especially worried that the other party's lack of skill might cause discrepancies. In that case, his overly meticulous deductions could backfire. But if that were the case, breaking the formation would be much simpler, no need for any fancy techniques. After several rounds of probing, Ye Shu realized his opponent was genuinely skilled. Their understanding and mastery of the coiling silk spiral formation had reached a truly consummate level. Unfortunately, even at this level, the spiral web formation was not without its flaws. As the creator of this formation, even if there was no flaw, Ye Shu could create one. This kind of breaking shouldn't be called breaking the formation at all. It's an inherent flaw in the coiling silk spiral formation itself. This flaw lies with the commander. The required precision is so high that nearly every single change demands an order for each character. When the pace of battle shifts into high gear, the commander simply can't keep up. And Lord Grimm, the prey caught in this spiral web formation, was precisely the kind of character who could force that pace.